I am in Mesa, Arizona at TurboKraft. And why am I here? Well, that's because it's time for my 930 project to get started. I'm super stoked, and I'm sure you guys are too, to finally see this beautiful monster come together and get built. I just spent the last 30 hours towing this 1987 Porsche 911 Turbo, also known as a 930, down here to TurboKraft. We'll go inside and check out the facility in just a sec. But for those of you that don't remember, this car has an electromotive ECU tuned system set up on it. It doesn't work very well. I'm going to be going to a full EFI conversion with the help of an AM Infinity and a whole bunch of other AM goods. This thing will undoubtedly be running so much better with the help of TurboKraft and Tony at UMS Tuning, who's going to tune this thing for me. We're going to do a full EFI conversion, clutch job, a transmission rebuild. There's so much to happen, but like I said, first thing, let's go inside and take a look at TurboKraft. This is TurboKraft, an air-cooled Porsche specialist shop, and as you can see, they've got some really amazing cars here. This is a Jägermeister tribute car. Check this thing out. Amazing wide body fenders, single lug conversion, pure badass, and of course, what we have here is an RWB build. The guys over at TurboKraft helped with a lot of work on this thing. Nakai was actually here and put it together at their shop. But the really cool part about this car is the engine, which I will let Chris, who is the owner of TurboKraft, explain to me. Like, look at this thing. So this is a 964 motor.
964 engine, and it's been fully remanufactured to 4 liters displacement. So bore and stroke combo is similar to a factory 997 GT3 RS.
Wow.
4 liter, only we're running, of course, different pistons, and this is all air cooled. We get different length rod, different oiling on the crankshaft, things that make it a little bit more suitable as a high performance road car for durability and longevity. This is almost a best of everything build. So this has got full custom forged crankshaft, long forged rods, ultra lightweight pistons, of a good compression ratio for a turbo. You can only get so much performance out of the factory cylinder heads because of the ceramic exhaust port lining on those.
Right.
They're notorious for cracking. If that cracks, it wipes out the turbos. This has extreme cylinder heads as one-piece billet heads. So it's a fully 5-axis CNC machined head. Highest flow you can get from any cylinder head. His heads actually outflow factory RSR heads. So this is pretty much the best heads you can buy for a 911.
And it's got ITBs.
And that's pretty much
Tell me more about that, because that is
ringer.
Very cool. Check these out.
If you want a 911 to rev like a GT3, like a sport bike, nothing has the cylinder feeling like individual throttle bodies. And this setup goes one step further. So instead of having a big traditional carburetor crossbar linkage, or dual cables, which isn't very efficient and they tend to fall out of adjustment, this has a system that a colleague makes which emulates the 3.8 RSR dual pull throttle linkage. So this setup does not fall out of adjustment. This isn't something you have to adjust every 8 to 12 weeks to keep it in optimal condition. This is something you can set part of your annual service, and we designed it to all come apart really quickly, so dialing it in takes a matter of hours, not a day.
And what about the turbo setup?
Turbo setup is a custom twin turbo, all stainless steel headers. These have heat because it's a street car, so it does have defrost functions, things like that on the car. These are twin Garrett ball bearing GTX turbochargers, each one rated for about 525 horsepower. So this is a 1,000 horsepower capable engine. Basically, we're not going to run it quite so hard. It's unknown what the total limit is going to be of the C4 drivetrain. Nobody's pushed one this far before. Yeah,
so that we should mention that that is an all-wheel drive car.
Drive car. So we have reinforced the entire G50 based 5-speed all-wheel drive as much as possible without making it a full motorsport setup.
That's crazy.
Everything on here is things like dry film coatings. So anything we could do to increase the durability, the longevity, increase lubrication so that the motor just lasts longer. That's been done.
Very cool. And check out the exhaust system on this thing.
We're very pleased with our fabricator. John is extremely talented, and we designed this to hug the chassis as tight as possible. But you can see it's even got recirculating wastegates, so it's not terrifically loud. That bolts on like so, opposite side like so. And when it's done, it emulates the old school RSRs with twin big shotgun pipes out the back.
Look at that. Killer.
So this is for that RWB car. Completes that backdate look like an old RSR, and this is going to be one hell of a motor. Very responsive, super torquey, and just a fun car you can drive every day on the street with heat and air conditioning, or take it out to the track and have a great time.
And tell me about this purple beast over here. I think everyone's going to be wondering what is going on here, because this is a 964 turbo.
This is 964 turbo, 1994 turbo 3.6. The 1 year only cars. They are the last of the 2-wheel drive big single turbo 911s. For that reason, they're highly sought after, very collectible. Owner of this car wanted one in a special wishes color. He wanted the slant nose. To get that, he basically had to buy a brand new turbo 3.6 and send it across the street to the Sonderwunsch division and have the whole car rebuilt. So the factory took a standard upright headlight car and completely disassembled it, installed all of the factory Flachbau components, and then repainted the car to his specification in this pretty strong purple.
Purple, yeah.
So this belongs to a really good client over in Kuwait, and they love these cars. You can have a 997 turbo, could have a GT2, doesn't matter. The car that really captures their heart.
Yeah, and this thing's as rare as they come.
Yep, last of the big flares, big wing, big nasty single turbo.
And what about everything else? So in terms of motors, tell us. So obviously you guys do a ton of engine rebuilds here for the most part, right? You're a full stop shop. You can do everything here.
Anything mechanical. The only thing we don't do is we don't do paint, we don't do upholstery.
Right.
We do minor body fitting. We'll fit a wing on there in the interest of building the biggest custom intercooler we can, fit side head wing, but that's about it. This is another ITB engine, so it's got the start of the ITB RSR throttle linkage on here. Cool. It's all ball bearing actuation, really nice and smooth. And the adapters for the 4-bolt throttle bodies that go on there. This is a 930 3.3 that's been bored to 98, so it's your conventional 3.4 liter, but then it's got a twist on top. It's got a GT3 RS crankshaft in there, which bumps the stroke out. So this is a 3.45, also called a Stroker 3.5. They are an absolute torque monster of an engine. It's just an absolute riot to drive on the street. And normally, like most of these street turbos, they rev to 62 or 64. Well, when you put ITBs on there, now you have so much more efficient cylinder filling that these engines are still making power and climbing at 7,500 RPM. Wow. So you get a power band like a big naturally aspirated GT3, but you get that enormous torque curve of a turbo. It's really
the best of both worlds, so to speak.
So this is a full-on twin scroll. We got the exhaust over there on the floor for this. It's a full twin scroll, big ball bearing, single turbo, full width billet intercooler, billet plenums, billet air horns. We make all those parts here at TurboKraft. And it's kind of the best of single turbo. It goes in this chassis, which you can see is a gorgeous 1987. And it has the full coilover conversion in it. The front end's got a 935 suspension. It's going to be set up full flex fuel, so it's going to have all PTFE fuel line in it. It can run any gas pretty much. You know, it's
very
not
cool.
That fuel system.
So essentially, people, whatever they want, you can kind of fulfill here.
We can build it.
No, this engine doesn't have cams. The off-tone exhaust note is a direct result of 1 or 2 cylinders not firing, but that's something that's going to be quickly fixed with the new EFI conversion.
The intercooler is one of the first parts that has to come off here. And once that's off, we get to the other parts, which I assume are motor mounts, right?
Electrical connections, oil lines, motor mounts will be one of the last.
Ah, right. There's actually a bunch of stuff that needs to get removed here. Here's one of the reasons why this automobile may not be running right. That's right. That is a
plastic vacuum tube plugged into another vacuum tube, into another vacuum tube, into the map sensor. Craziness, I tell ya. We're working fast and furious here. The ignition wires are coming off, a lot of the electrical connections. Taking all that jazz off. That's the last time we'll see yellow ignition wires in the Porsche. Here's another Home Depot special. A reducer tube, a plastic tube for the blow-off valve. That definitely does not belong in a Porsche, and we will be removing it. Our blow-off valve is officially fit for the pit as well. Anyone looking for a, I don't even know what brand of blow-off valve this is, but a generic one, you let me know. It's gonna be in the trash out back, along with the rest of this stuff. That's it for up here. Time to move underneath, get this thing dropped. What are we working on there?
This is the clutch.
The old clutch. The old clutch. Mike, what's the fastest you've dropped one of these engine transmission combos?
45 minutes.
45 minutes, wow. I think we're on pace here. Everything's moving very quickly. The drive axles come out rather easy. 6, I assume, or 8 bolts?
6.
6. And they pop out, and this is what it looks like.
Engine mount bolts.
That's right, so we have 2 engine mount bolts
Big 12mm.
that need to come out on this side.
One at each corner.
And then underneath,
We've got transmission. Transaxle. We'll call it that, right? 2 bolts there.
2 bolts here. And this whole setup's gonna drop right down.
Slow and steady wins this race.
Alright, let's see, probably right about there. Clear? Yep, just the other axle will need a little bit of help, but no, it fell. Alright, again. One more.
Getting close. Yes. Would you look at that?
Alright, killed another one.
Got ourselves an engine and transmission fully removed. Next up, we're going to separate the transmission from the engine. And I think we're going to be calling it a day after that, right?
Yep.
Look at that. Comes off like a glove. Man, that looks old and depressing. And rusty. Holy smokes.
Hey!
Holy smokes. Wow. Look at that. That is rubber. Believe it or not. What did you say? It was Porsche's way of making sure it was for NVH?
Yep.
Wow.
Hide some of the transmission noise, hide some of the engine noise. No spring hub, instead they'll just coat the whole thing with a couple of pounds of rubber.
That is crazy. Thank God it's gone.
And this this is the flywheel. So when people talk about putting a lightweight flywheel in there, it's really a waste. This thing's only as thick as your finger. It's good grade steel. It's, you know, typical German steel. It's going to last a hell of a long time. Instead, all of the weight is in this almost 3-inch tall iron pressure plate.
Look at the size of that thing.
This is one more of those things that helps dumb down the car for the lowest common denominator of driver.
The last remaining task for the day was to hang the engine on a stand, making it much easier to work on during the teardown process. So this is CIS injection, and Chris is going to explain it to us a little bit and tell us why we're getting rid of it, right?
Why are we not getting? Yeah. So CIS injection in all of its glory, basic smog design system, so the cars would pass emissions in the 70s. Operates on a very simple airflow meter principle. Airflow meter goes down, picture a seesaw inside and a plunger in the fuel distributor. Meter goes down, plunger comes up. It allows more fuel to flow through the head evenly out to all 6 injectors. It's evenly in theory. There's little trim adjusters you can do. It's calibrated by the factory. Sends fuel to all 6 injectors simultaneously, so it is continuous injection system. Really, the engine, once it's cranking, is getting supplied with fuel the whole time. Acceleration, deceleration. That's part of why these things have that fuel overrun. When you decelerate, it goes bum, 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 bum.
Right, okay.
It's still spraying gas. I mean, if this thing shuts, it's spraying less, obviously, but that is the principle with it, continuous injection system. So why don't they spray when the car is, you know, sitting there? Well, you cycle the key on and the pump's prime. It hasn't developed enough pressure to then kick it open. The injectors have an opening pressure, so once you exceed that pressure, then everything's lit off.
That's when they start, yeah.
Principal parts of the system are fuel distributor. That name implies it's just distributing fuel to all 6 injectors simultaneously. It is controlled by the warm-up regulator, which for all practical purposes is a fuel pressure regulator. This does cold control pressure, warm operating control pressure, boost enrichment threshold, so at what point does it start enriching, and then the boost enrichment, so when the thing hits boost and it gets the signal from the manifold, it should be reducing the control pressure, thereby allowing more fuel through here. Kind of works inverse like most people think. Here control is resistance, so the more control you have, the less fuel will flow through the system. Why are we getting rid of it?
Yeah, why is this archaic?
Because it is archaic to the max. These are ferociously expensive to have remanufactured by Bosch. This part would probably be on the order of $1,800 to $2,000.
Wow.
Warm-up regulators, I haven't priced one out in literally years. Last time we did, they were in the high $600 range. Rebuild exchange. Last time we called on one of these for a customer, there were no cores available, so you had to send yours in and wait. So,
and they're probably not very tunable.
It is not very tunable. Like we were just chatting, it's basically you've got a system pressure. You can manipulate the system pressure up and down to get the desired flow, to get it within spec. Then they tell you how to check within 30 seconds that you have enough fuel coming through the system, like it's say about 1500 cc's in 30 seconds. You check all that. You check your fuel pumps are working correctly. You check that they have full voltage. Some of that's just old car stuff to deal with, but if that stuff's not working tip-top and you start to modify these engines, things go bad quickly. They shatter rings.
Yeah, sounds complicated. And
yeah. Then you start modifying that, and next thing you find you have to manipulate the warm-up regulator, so you're taking it apart to manipulate the 4 sections of it, or you send it out and you have it modified to be externally adjustable, which is literally using an Allen wrench, a 10mm wrench, and a hammer. So it is a crude system.
That is one hell of a tuning setup.
Absolutely. And then this is essentially how you adjust your CO, which is really the only measurement they give you from the factory. And
that's our tuning device.
Yep, and it's a little 3mm Allen wrench. You push it down until it engages, and you turn it, clockwise or counterclockwise. You push it too far, and you start manipulating your own signals because you're deflecting the control arm. you make one change here and then you adjust that and you adjust that. And if you're running the car on the dyno and you find your whole thing is off a little bit and you can't adjust it here, well, congratulations, you got to go back and adjust your system pressure and then readjust this and readjust. It's just...
So essentially what you're saying is this system is pretty untunable, and that's why EFI is the way to go.
Right. It's so easy to make big power with these motors and have it reliable, but CIS is a long, expensive road to follow. In the end, you can spend as much as if you do a quality EFI conversion. And EFI will always give you faster response, better torque, better economy, safer operation at higher boost pressures. So why not? Why not have the perks of all the modern drivability?
Exactly.
And get the classic car that you want. Just give up a lot of the compromise. This is also responsible for a lot of what people call turbo lag. It's not just turbo lag, it's CIS lag. So sure, you have a change in the throttle position plate, you're getting a change in vacuum signal at the distributor. But are you injecting more fuel right away? No, because the vacuum signal has to travel up through this entire booster circulation plenum, through the intercooler, down through the charge pipe, through the turbo, all the way back up the intake path, and then pull the airflow meter down. So you have this lag of the signal. Of course, with EFI, this throttle switch gets replaced with a true sensor, and the minute that changes, your fuel and your timing instantly change, so the engine is inherently a lot more responsive.
And that's why I am here.
Yes.
This is gonna be one heck of a project, and we can't wait, I can't wait to see how this all comes together. And indeed, that does wrap up this episode. There's a ton of cool stuff coming along as we continue to convert this engine over to EFI.